Thanks everyone for joining me for another episode of the Travel Collective, where we share tips on travel, suggestions for great places, and talk to travelers. So tonight, I wanted to take a minute and talk about outdoors because autumn, September, October, November, even into December and winter. I just love getting outside. It's off season, you're past summer, and all the families flooding some of these great national parks and state parks. So, just wanted to have a conversation. So, welcome Darcie and Darla tonight.
Hello.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
So,
So, I'm going to have Darcie, why don't you go ahead and share some of your favorite parks, maybe, or places to visit in your area? Tell everyone what's close to you, some favorite places that you would recommend for this time of year as we're going into autumn.
well, as we're going into fall and winter, I I recommend the wetlands and wildlife refuges because we get a lot of the tundra birds down here, and it's not just birds. Some of the other critters are around, but I like to go to their Ridgefield Wildlife Refuge is one of my favorites, and that's in Washington. And then there's some south of me around Salem. And there's even a brand new, well, the wetland isn't new, but a new little teeny weeny pocket park really close to where I live now. And it's on the between the road that I grew up on and the next road over, which is their long blocks. And it was recently preserved just a couple of years ago. And I go there a lot just to listen to the birds and watch the silly birds. And even that tiny little wetland has a lot of extra birds in the winter. So that's one of the things I really like to do in the winter and the fall because we've got migrating birds, we've got wintering birds, we get the tundra birds, so we get swans and we get eagles and we get um, snowy, not snowy owls. We get those occasionally. Um, Snow geese. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh,
And sandhill cranes and just a ton of stuff that comes down here and winters or passes through. A lot of different kinds of ducks. So it's a lot of fun. It's and we have uh, at least one refuge that you don't even have to get out of your car. It has two places. You're actually not allowed to get out of your car except for one little walkway to a bird line. So it's a drive, and it also has a second section to the same wildlife refuge that you walk through, and you're not allowed to drive through. So it's a really great place to go. So that's one of my favorites is just going out to the wetlands and seeing what happens to be flitting around.
yeah, that sounds fabulous. That sounds
It's
really,
a lot of fun.
it's a lot of fun. It doesn't sound like it costs, like an entrance fee or anything like that. And it's just if you want to chill out, kind of, it's relaxing to bird watch and bring some
Yeah.
binoculars or your long lens if you're a photography buff.
Yep. Although I like to listen to them. Quack, 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 quack. Sorry, it just makes me laugh. There's nothing cheerier than listening to a bunch of duck sounds with all the different ducks and all the different things sounds they make. It's
Yeah,
entertaining.
right. Yeah, that's great. So, Darla, you're joining us from Colorado?
Right. Yep.
So share some places that you enjoy, and they don't
Um,
necessarily have to be in Colorado if you have other favorites for to go this time of year.
yeah. So yeah, Colorado is a big state, and it I feel like it is kind of synonymous with the outdoors, and we do have tons and tons of opportunities for all kinds of outdoor stuff here. And just bouncing off of what Darcy said, we do get some sandhill cranes coming through here, but there's the kind of the big event for that is in the spring, and we get snow geese that come through southeastern Colorado, kind of a lesser traveled part of the state. And that there's a snow goose festival up in February.
Oh,
Um, and so not right now, but yeah, right now we've got we're coming up on like elk elk bugling season. I don't know if you're familiar with elk bugling. It's like kind of a high-pitched, whiny sound, and it's a very popular thing to go up to the Rocky Mountain National Park and look for elk and try to listen to them bugling. But you can certainly see them and hear them in other places outside the national park as well. So that, yeah, that's kind of like the wildlife aspect.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Um,
wonderful. Yeah.
and yeah,
And
and I guess
for me, I like to go to the coast because it's an easy place to find the elk. And we have the Roosevelt elk, and in some places in Oregon we have the Rocky Mountain elk, which I believe is what you have in Colorado. Which do you have the Rocky Mountain elk?
pretty
Or
sure,
is
yeah.
there's two different kinds of elk. Like they all look the same to me. But I go to when we go to the coast, which is another one of my favorite places anywhere along the Oregon and Washington coast. But there's a specific spot I go to on the northern Oregon coast that there's always elk, and we've heard them. We've heard the elk bugling down there.
Nice. Yeah, that's
Nice.
great. Yeah. I haven't learned, I'm new to the Vegas area, but there are areas to go in Vegas, but I tend to gravitate towards places that have trees. So I go to Yosemite National Park a lot in autumn, and it's a great time to go. You get the golden trees. Depending on the waterfall season and the amount of rain they've had, I mean, literally some of the places where the waterfalls were running in the springtime, all of a sudden you look over at that canyon wall and you're like, wait, there was something there. It's springtime, and it's dry, it just will be more dry, but the golds and the way the light hits the canyons and the grasses,
Oh,
it's just really a beautiful time to go there, and it's much quieter, and again, you can try to plan to stay inside the park. I did just pull up the Yosemite site, and it does look like you do need a reservation to drive into the park up until into or through the park on weekends through October 27th. But I try to, if you can, it's almost worth it to go to some of the national parks if you can take off days midweek. I know for a lot of us that work, it's kind of, it gets pricey to take your work day off, but the offset is lodging's generally cheaper, and oftentimes you can still get a place to stay inside the park, and then you're closer to the wildlife. It's a lot nicer to get up early and just be right there instead of having to drive in. So
and you mentioned the canyons, and all three of us live in states with canyon lands, and they're all completely different because I've
yeah,
been to all three of them, obviously. And I find that kind of interesting because we all have canyon lands, and they're all completely different. And like April is close to Red Rock Canyon. Do you spend any time out there?
I have
Because
not yet, to be honest. I'm still pretty new. I haven't done enough exploring. I'm waiting for those 100-degree days to stop, because that is one
oh,
thing
that's
about, Nevada is, it's still really hot. So, it doesn't, it may not cool off really until end of September, October this year. I mean, these heat waves are
it's
lasting
supposed,
longer.
it's supposed to be 101 here in Oregon tomorrow.
Oh no. Oh dear.
I know. Well, I'm waiting for that trip to Alaska.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So, Darla, have
You
you
as well.
explored any of the canyon lands in Colorado? Maybe I'm getting Colorado and Arizona mixed up.
No, no, no.
Maybe
There's, I
you.
think, some canyons in
Yeah,
Colorado in the
Yeah,
I've
southwest
been there.
yeah.
corner.
But there's also, yeah, Canyonlands National Park, I think, is in Utah,
Oh,
which
that's right.
is, next to Colorado.
There's
But
Canyon de Chelly and all
yeah,
the parks and the Four Corners area with the Native American, the old
right. The
really
Mesa,
what
Mesa
Mesa,
Verde. Yeah.
yeah, Mesa Verde. And there's Canyon, I think it's called Canyon de Chelly, but it's spelled, it looks like it's Canyon de Chelly. And it's
Oh,
another one
right.
with the cliff dwellings. There's actually a lot of cliff dwellings up that way. Santa Fe in New Mexico. and that it sounds like that it's not outdoors, but it really is, because you don't go really into them. They're all outside, and you go into the canyons and things to get to them. So that's something that I like. But it's just kind of interesting to me that we're all in places that have canyons, but they're all completely different. The types of canyons that we have in our where we are.
Yeah. Do you have tips, Darla, for people planning to come to Colorado in autumn? Are there areas where it's starting to get cooler? Because I think for a lot of the United States this year, everyone's still just wanting a break from the heat. I mean, it's just been incredibly hot.
Definitely. We're having a few cooler days here in the Denver area right now, but it's going to be back up to 90s next week. And it's going to be hot for a little while still. But the good thing about Colorado is that if you go up to the mountains, it's always going to be cooler. So, um, so yeah, you could, you can always go up in elevation in Colorado. And fall is a good time to do that because um, the kind of the fall colors and the leaf peeping is kind of a big deal here. And depending on where you are in the state and what elevation and kind of what microclimate you have, um, the the leaves will be turning color at a different time. So, the sooner I think the soonest the leaves are going to turn is relatively soon, maybe in just a couple weeks. And that'll be up kind of in the northwest part of the state and in the Steamboat Springs area. And then a little bit later, your leaves are going to be turning colors a little south of that and a little east of that, and so on. And so, depending on when you come in the fall, you just need to know what part of the state to head to get the best color.
Yeah.
So you're going to have choices.
Yeah, that's what I love about Colorado. There's so many different areas of the state, and you're right, because I one year I did go to Durango, Colorado, and that was almost the end of October, and the trees were just beautiful, just the golds and the leaves, and taking that Durango Silverton train is definitely a great thing to do in autumn. But
That's
again,
one of the things that I like to do is just go out for a drive.
yeah.
Even though I live in the burbs, but from where I live, it takes 15 minutes and you're out in the countryside.
Oh, nice.
And 20 minutes to half an hour, you're up in towards the mountain where as Darla was saying, things get they change colors as you progress. So, you can go around the valley here and see a bunch of trees and all the pretty, and go up the Columbia River Gorge and see all the trees there that are changing, and then go up the mountain at a different weekend and there's even more. It's nice having all of that so close. And then to get out of the heat around here, of course, we go to the coast or the mountain, because I'm about an hour from the mountain and hour and a half, 2 hours to the coast, depending on traffic. So those are my escapes. I love the mountain and I love the coast as well. I love living in Oregon.
Nice. That's great. Yeah.
Actually, a lot of the times on the coastal stuff, I go to Washington because I have a little route I take that doesn't have any traffic on it.
Yeah. And I think it's good if we give some tips for planning and traveling in this, September, October, just because some of these areas, the weather can change quickly. I think it was last weekend, or maybe it's been a little longer, like Glacier National Park in Montana had a freak snowstorm. So, I mean, we're heading into those times of the year where, I mentioned Durango Silverton, the year I was looking to go there. Again, many times you need to plan ahead and buy a ticket for the train, or if you want to be in a certain car, or, have a hotel room, next to the historic district so you can walk in the evening. And we looked at the weather and it was like, you know what? I think we need to switch our ticket by a day or two, because a snowstorm came in, and the next day, I mean, the train wasn't going to run the next day because it was just going to hit snow up in Silverton. So, you need to kind of be looking at the weather, pack some layers, and be a little flexible and find out, what is the cancellation policy, or are they willing to make changes to your ticket or your reservation?
And the two of you both have a lot in your areas when it rains in the mountains, you guys have the possibility of flash floods. So you have to kind of be
Yeah.
careful with that too, and check out the rain, what's happening in the rain. Well, what's happening in the mountains of the state you're going to, even if you're not going to the mountains, at least where you guys are. Here, if it rains everywhere.
Are there
Weather,
areas are there areas, Darcy, though, where people might, are there towns that kind of fill up that get really popular in fall, with activities or things like that? Because sometimes
well,
people, if they're not used to traveling to a certain place, you've got, community events happening. And, I was looking at prices
right.
today for somewhere, and I was like, what's going on that weekend? Is there a festival? Is it a
Well,
football
yeah,
game? What's
in the
happening?
metro area, we have a lot of little festivals this time of year because we have the I call them the beer festivals, the Oktoberfests. And like this coming weekend is the Polish festival, which is a type of that. I love the Polish festival. And of the fall festivals. But for the most part, this time of year, it's there's a lot less tourism because people, I don't want to say a lot less tourism, but there's fewer people out and about because the kids are in school and there's not as many people. So it's a really great time to go to the coast or even the mountain before it starts to snow, pretty much anywhere in Oregon. Um, so, but we've been really popular lately. So, um, you always want to check ahead of time. I wouldn't just fly in or drive in and say, okay, I'm just going to go to Oregon or I'm going to go to Washington. And there's of course more people in Washington. It's the Seattle area. There's a ton of things to do up in the Seattle area because you're very close to the San Juan Islands, Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, all outdoor type of things. There's whale watching all up and down both coasts, and even in the bays in the Seattle area, and that because there's pods that live there year round. So there's always, and that's where they just live in the Puget Sound. And
Nice.
but I think that off season, even later after September, maybe a time where there's a few less people up in that area. And down here, um, about after school starts, the end of September-ish, the crowds start to thin out, and it'll probably be easier to find a place to stay, whether it's a yurt or a campground or a hotel or a motel. But you also have to be careful that you don't run up against the ski season if you're not a skier, because we have a lot of very popular ski areas in the Bend and Central Oregon area. So that there's this little time frame, and when after school starts and before the snow starts, and then in the spring after the snow melts and before the school gets out, and those are my favorite times to go anywhere anyway.
Nice.
But it it's just in the metro area. Uh, you can come to the Portland metro area, and I know Portland's a bad word these days, but the metro area itself, there's Forest Park. You can hike Forest Park year round. It's the largest urban uh, forest in the country. Some people like to say that the one in New York is bigger, but it actually is not. um, and we have a lot of small parks, and there's even a state park in Lake Oswego, which is right in the metro area. Lake Oswego has a really great park called Tryon Creek State Park, and it's a great place to go wander. You really feel like you're out in the woods, and you're 10 minutes, if that, from civilization.
Nice. Yeah, that's
So yeah,
great.
it's a lot of stuff right close. If you don't want to go out and venture out farther, but there's as as Darla was saying, there's the whole state is just fabulous. There's a lot of outdoor things to do here and a lot of outdoor things to do in Washington. And one thing that you need to be aware of if you're traveling is the east part across the mountains in both Oregon and Washington is high desert. So the elevation, you're starting at 3,000. And here in the metro area, we're at 200 to 1,500. So you have to kind of be aware of the elevation changes in where you're staying, because the different it'll be snowing on the mountain, it'll be perfectly fine down here.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
you have to watch those types of things, and I think it's that way in Colorado too, Darla.
Yeah, and absolutely. A lot of the things you said about Oregon are very similar in Colorado. Like right now, it's a great time to go to the mountains because kids are in school, it's less crowded, but you do have to watch the weather. It could snow, it could be snowing in the high mountains. It could be, snowing on one side of the Continental Divide and warm and sunny on the other side. So you definitely need to know where you're going. And yeah, elevation is a big deal here in Colorado. If you're flying into Denver, you're going to be at, over 5,000 feet. And then if you're going to the mountains, you're just going to go up and up and up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, all the precautions you want to take, definitely. This is also a very dry state, kind of a high desert. So, lots of water, a lot more water than you think you need. Don't do anything strenuous the first day you get here. If you're from a lower elevation, kind of do something easy after a day or two, test it out before you, decide to go on a crazy hike or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to. You mentioned like the fall festivals and so on. There do seem to be kind of a lot of Oktoberfest type things in Colorado, and those are going on in the mountains and kind of down here in the city area for the next few weeks. Yeah, Colorado likes their Oktoberfest.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But yeah, after kind of and a lot of kind of summery mountain attractions do tend to shut down kind of around the middle of October. So if you want to check and make sure that what you'd like to do is actually going to be open and available. And yeah, then there'll be kind of like this very slow season between the end of the summer, the end of the Oktoberfests, and then after the leaves have changed, there'll be this kind of very, very slow season until ski season starts around the middle of November. And so, yeah,
we go from the September Oktoberfest to Halloween all of October. And then I know. And then November is holiday bazaars, and then we have Christmas.
Right. Are there some lesser known parks or areas, Darla, that you enjoy in Colorado that might not be as well known as, say, Rocky Mountain National Park?
Yeah, definitely. And this is something that I do try to tell people. Like, people think they're going to come to Colorado and go see all the national parks, and they may be able to do that, but Colorado is a big state, and it's many, many hours of driving from one park to another. So, kind of set your expectations there. But the other thing is that, maybe you're not going to go all the way to the western part of the state to see those parks, but Colorado has, I think, 43 state parks.
Oh, wow.
And they're a variety of activities in all those parks. A lot of them are based around reservoirs.
Mm.
because water is such a scarce resource here. So those are maybe more of like, summer fishing and boating, and there's even swim beaches at some of those parks. Um, but one of my favorite state parks is called Staunton State Park. It's, maybe an hour drive from Denver, and it's just all about hiking and mountain biking if you like that. It's just in a forested um, area. It was a former ranch. The ranch owners donated the land to the state of Colorado so it could become a state park, and it just has wonderful, wonderful hiking. So,
Yeah, that
um,
sounds.
so you can find state parks with lakes, with hiking, uh, and some of them are very close to Denver, so you don't have to go. If you're just flying into Denver, you don't have to go that far. Let's see what else. What else is there to do?
Oh, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot in
Yeah,
Yeah,
Colorado. But
we
I do
we
agree
know.
a lot of the states are there, if you're going to take that drive up to the mountain, it's not, it's going to take much longer than, you're not going 60 miles an hour. So,
right.
rethinking those time increments, and it is starting to get darker earlier. We've just come off of summer, and it's easy to forget that, you're going to lose light up there, and some areas you may not have cell phone coverage depending on
Yes.
where
Yeah.
you're
Good point. Good
at.
point.
Well, this is a
Yeah.
great time to go to say Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, and of course Crater Lake in Southern Oregon, because there aren't as many tourists, and some of the things will be closed at Crater Lake by the end of this year. So or not end of the year, but the end of this month. They,
Oh,
and I don't know if they still do this. They must. There is a boat tour in Crater Lake, and they take the boats in and out by helicopter.
really?
And
Oh,
I
wow.
actually want to see that someday.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. Oh my
There's no
goodness.
way to get them down there. There's no roads or anything. You when you're at Crater Lake, you're at the rim, so you have to walk down. There are trails that go down there, but yeah, you have to be a pretty hardy to do that. Um, but something Darla said reminded me of something else, and then I went off on another tangent. But
Oh, I
we
don't
do
know. What?
have I think it was the parks, but the state parks. We have a ton of state parks in Oregon too, and they're all over the state. So I've been camping in state parks in far eastern Oregon on the border with Idaho and the southern Oregon, and all up and down the coast. And um, Washington is the same. There's state parks all up and down the coast, and part of the Olympic National Park is actually there's a little sliver of it on the coast in Washington, and that is another great place to visit this time of year because it's cooler, or you can get away from the heat, and there's fewer people now that school's in. You can get into places. I was up there one year. I think we made the mistake of going over Labor Day weekend. We had to go back to Solduck Springs 3 times just to go see the falls because there wasn't any parking.
Oh,
You can't park along the road, so there's literally was no parking. So we had to go back 3 times because I really like that falls. I
right,
like the
right.
that's if you want outdoors and to really feel like you're getting away from it all and still be fairly close to Seattle. Olympic National Park has everything. It's a beautiful area to visit. It's actually gorgeous. And before I forget, I wanted to April. There's north of you, I looked it up because we talked about this before. I believe it was 189 miles north of you is Cathedral Gorge,
Oh, nice.
which is sandstone, I believe, that has been worn away by water and wind, and there's all these turrets and they look like castles, and it's a fabulous place. So there's a place for you to visit in your own state.
Yeah, there is a lot in Nevada. It's just I haven't gotten out to explore because it's a different landscape. It's different, just with more, rocks and canyons versus, California, which has the coast and the trees and,
Right.
that those kind of features. But yeah, there's a lot here and getting out. There's a lot of little ghost towns, which that's not really nature as
I
such,
was
but
just about to say,
it is kind of outdoors because many of those quote ghost towns don't have many places to stay. They're kind of abandoned. They're, just
mhm.
like in the Colorado mountains. It's one thing to go through some of the old mining towns, and some of them have been rebuilt up, and some of them, I know I keep mentioning Silverton, but I really enjoyed that Durango Silverton. But you need to kind of plan like almost 3 days, a day, depending on where you're arriving from. And then it's a full day on the train and back, or unless you stay over. And then the third day, so you do kind of, and Silverton itself has hotels in it, but it kind of shuts down like,
Yeah.
it kind of just closes up. I'm not even exactly sure when, but it felt like it was closing up in October when I was there.
Rolling up the sidewalks.
Yeah, like the little shops are closing and people
Oh,
literally like, leave that area because there's probably so much snow and I don't know that how much skiing is right near that particular location as such.
yeah, and that's funny that you said that about the ghost towns because I was literally just about to say that. And April, there's ghost towns near you, and there's probably a lot of in Colorado. There's quite a few ghost towns here in Oregon, but I try not to tell people where they are because once the the road went through to a bunch of ghost towns that my grandparents and I used to go to on a dirt road, and they put a main highway through it, and the ghost towns all got trashed.
Oh.
So I don't tell anybody where they are anymore. So mean. I know I'm mean.
No, that's not mean. So, where are some places, Darla, have you stayed in some of the parks in Colorado yourself, as far as, cabins or more affordable places to stay? I mean, sometimes when we live in our own state, we don't actually go and stay overnight, but
Yeah, I've not done. Oh, I've not really done camping in the state parks. However, I do plan to start camping actually this fall. Um, in a few places. So I can, come back and tell you about this
yeah,
on that one
no,
later.
no,
But
that's great.
yes, a lot of the state parks do have camping. Um, most of them have RV type sites with the electrical and possibly water and a dump station. Um, a lot of the state parks also will have tent areas. A lot of those you will have to maybe hike to, or go, kind of walk a short distance to. So you're not going to be able to back your car up and, dump all your stuff out. um, and yeah, it's pretty affordable. I want to say like an electrical site is maybe, just in general, maybe 30 to $35 a night. Where tent sites are going to be around $20 a night with no electric, no services, just your tent pad and maybe a fire ring and a grill. Um, yes, there are a lot of state park campsites in Colorado. Oh, and then a number of state parks do allow winter camping,
Oh,
and maybe they don't have quite as many services, like maybe you can't get a shower, or
oh yeah.
maybe it depends on the park. You have to do your research there. But yeah, camping in the winter is definitely possible here, and yeah, and it's definitely affordable.
Right, right, definitely.
And
Yeah, and
ours
that's
ours
something I
is
kind of,
around.
go ahead,
Oh, go
Darcy.
ahead. Oh, ours changes depending on where you are, at
Oh,
which state park you're in, and that doesn't make any sense to me. But some of them are more expensive than others for the full hookup. And as Darla was saying, some of them close down part of the campground. There's a huge a huge campground at the coast. It's, you know, the campground loops are A, B, C, D. Well, this one goes all the way through J, K, and L, I think.
Oh, wow.
Huge campground. But in the winter, the campgrounds are open all year round, but they close down the ones in the far left field, far out in the boonies, and that don't have. They're mostly tent sites that are shut down, but most of the yurts are open all year round, and RV camping is open year round. It just depends on the type, the where the campground is, if they think anybody's going to come there, if there's tons of snow and that sort of thing. Um, I actually went camping not this April, but the one before, with a friend of mine over in Eastern Oregon. It was, no, it was May. It was my birthday. That's
Oh,
right. It was my birthday. So it was the end of May. We got snowed on in East Central Oregon
oh my goodness. Wow.
in a tent. In a tent. We got snowed on. So that brings us kind of back to watch the weather.
Yeah, it does, and things can change quickly. And I know some people are doing more car camping too, which is, setting yourself up to, maybe sleep out of your car and finding places. You probably still want to find out what the permit is to park your car and if the park allows that or how that might work. But
Right. And some of the parks around here say you have to set up a tent. I have a friend who does that. She just sets up like a pop-up tent and then sleeps in her car.
oh,
She has a
does she?
she has a camping van. So she sets up a little pop-up tent and sleeps in her van because that's what it's for.
Wow. Yeah, I wondered about that, about some of the quote rules that need to be followed and so forth. So that's good information. That's one thing I haven't done much of, to be honest, is camping. But I do like to go and stay in the parks, and I know some of the state parks too. I'd have to do some research. They have like cabins, and it might be more rustic, but it's more affordable, and you get to be closer to nature and have some of those experiences, and so it's worth checking that out. There's a site called Hip Camp also, for people that may
Yeah.
live on the edges or of parks, because a lot of times, someone actually was on the edge of a national park, and due to the boundaries and whatnot, they might have a rental or, a backyard that they allow people to set something up in. So it's a site to check out too. So any other tips for travelers as they look at getting outside this autumn, because there are some fabulous places to go, and I'll put in the show notes the fall foliage, because each state that usually gets change of color. I'm sure if Colorado has a site where you can kind of track if what time the leaves possibly are going to change, or look at past years. Sometimes that's a good indicator of trying to gauge when you might want to go and be in some of the parks like Rocky Mountain National Park, and down in the other corners and areas of the state as well.
I think I'd say the same as we did when we were doing the packing, which would be make sure you wear layers, and no matter where you're going, if it's fall and heading into winter, bring a raincoat, even if you think you're not going to need it.
Yeah, I
Yep.
agree.
Yeah. Same thing in Colorado, layers, 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 and bring lots of water. Don't, the big sites like Rocky Mountain National Park that everybody knows about are well known for a reason, and they're great to go to, but don't discount the state parks or even the county parks where you might be going. You know, there's there are lots of like hidden gems in Colorado anyway that you're not going to find written about on the big travel sites, and you need to get down to the niche sites, or kind of do some advanced Googling to get to.
Oh, I love
But
that, Darla. I think
yeah,
that's great. Or order,
yeah,
actually get out a paper map. A lot of the paper maps will indicate scenic routes, or like you said, where the county or state parks might be.
yeah. Just I think, for instance, I think in my county we have, I think, around 27 or so county parks.
Oh, wow.
And most of them are and in my county, it's free to go to the county parks. Some counties do either charge you an entrance fee or charge for parking. Um, but you know, and there's a reason for every park to be there. So yeah, so don't discount those smaller sites.
No, I agree. I think that's excellent. And you actually can enjoy nature maybe a little bit more as it's intended, instead of, you go to some of these national parks and like we all have said, I mean, they're gems, they're wonderful, but we have just so many people that want to go to them. They've become over popular in a way. And even in Yosemite, it is hard to kind of get away from the droves of people, unless you're getting up super early or really hiking into the backcountry. And for some of us who are not as, trail savvy or are, it's smart to know your limitations. Like I know my limitations. I'm not comfortable being too far away from civilization or on a path that's not, a path or a trail as such. So the county and state parks do offer opportunities that are much quieter to really just be with yourself and a few people and hear nature, not just hear, trampling and laughing, and which is great too. But when you're in nature, I think we all want to go to nature for that experience of experiencing nature.
Yeah. And there's a lot of little places that have nature walks with the signs. So you can actually learn a little something. There's a place up here on the way to the mountain that I take people on one of my tours. It's the Mount Hood tour, and it's BLM land, Bureau of Land Management, and it's got a wetland, and the creek goes right through there. They have created an underwater viewing station,
Oh,
and they didn't create the creek. It's an actual real little river that goes through there, but they created an underwater viewing station. So that's a fun little walk, and you don't even have to really go hiking at a lot of these places. Just look for nature walks on the map and see what you find. And another thought that I had that's kind of halfway between the parks and the ghost towns is living history villages. And I don't know how many or if there are any in the West, but my favorite one is actually just over the border in Canada. It's called Barkerville. And I know that they do those in the East Coast, but you can kind of combine two different things there. You can do your history and get a walk in and be outside all at the same time. And enjoy if you're into history. And we have even just small towns. Oregon City is fun to go for a walk in. A lot of cute little shops and cafes and historic buildings. So it just depends on the type of thing people like. Some people, I just want to be outside. I love the parks and the nature and really being out in the boonies. But I also like to just wander through First Fridays or festivals or things that happen to be outside.
right. Yeah, that's true. That's really great. Or finding those, like for me, I do often will take a different route into California to just hit sections of one of them goes down to Amboy, which is was on Route 66, and just driving down there, finding a place to kind of pull off the road and just kind of, and if it's at night, and of course, you want to be fully off the road or find a wider spot, but just
Right.
to see the darkness and the sky and the stars, and that to me is just enjoying it, being outside in nature too. It's not technically maybe a park, but you're out in the wide open, which we're lucky in this country we have these spaces.
Definitely. And that brings up another one. And some people wouldn't think about this but I had a telescope for a long time, and there are telescope and star watching parties and star watching groups. And that's a great way to get outside and to meet people and again, learn a little something maybe, but mostly I just aimed my telescope at the sky to see what was in, I wasn't very good with it.
Oh no.
But that in Colorado and the desert out in Las Vegas would probably be great for those things. And I think there's if I remember correctly, there's a big star party out in the Nevada desert
Yeah, I
somewhere.
was gonna look because there are areas that they are designating as like dark sky, you know, areas in a way that they're trying to, keep building, kind of keep that space as such and to keep
Light
the
pollution.
sky. Yeah, light pollution. So, well, these have been great suggestions, everyone. Let's go around and let everyone, if you've got a website that, if people want to reach out to you with further questions about where you're at and you feel like you want to share that, that would be great. Darcie, did you have?
I actually have a question for Darla.
Oh, great. Go for it.
While we're here. And you probably know I own a tour company and I already said I do Oregon and Washington, but I don't know what you do.
I just, I have a kind of a small blog. I'm a slow writer, and because of other, commitments, I haven't been able to devote the time to it that I'd like to, but that's changing. So it is mostly Colorado content, but I do love traveling everywhere. So there's stuff from other places there too. And the website is darlatravels.com. And there's a good amount of Colorado hiking on there.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
And then I'm kind of active on Instagram, and that's Darla Travels on Instagram.
Oh, beautiful. So we
and
can
the
see
same
photos.
content. Yeah, same content on Facebook page of the same name.
Darla Travels?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Love that, especially for people wanting more information on Colorado and time of year and just scenery and little, towns to go to or tips and tricks on hiking. Love that.
Definitely. I haven't been to Colorado since 1981.
It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Changed a lot.
And I think what I remember is Colorado, the state with that used to have all the copper mines. Because I know we went through a lot of those states that had copper mining.
Yeah, I'm not sure about copper. Definitely there's some silver, gold, lead, and now molybdenum is a big one.
No, I can't even pronounce that one. I think it was Arizona. Sometimes I get the states mixed up, but so Darla Travels. That was it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Darcie, go ahead and share how people can reach out to you about Oregon, your tours, your ghost walks, whatever.
Oh yes, that's our fun fall activity coming up the last 2 weeks of October. I do a history walk. Well, it's a ghost tour walk in downtown Oregon City, and it includes a drink and a hot drink, not an alcoholic beverage, a hot drink and a treat. And then we walk the historic district and tell a lot of ghost stories. I worked in a museum up there for years, and so I have a lot of really good stories. But so that's coming up the end of October, and you can find me at Get Out of Town Tours at yahoo.com or Get Out of Town Tours on Facebook. I do have a lot of photographs on my Facebook page that are Oregon pictures, places I go on my tours, and places that I can take you. And this is a good time to do those things. So it's fall and winter birding is coming up. I do bird watching tours. I do whale watching tours. Overnight I do one that combines, I think April wanted to do this one. It's called Whales and Wine. And we go to the coast. We go to the coast for overnight, or we can go longer, and we do some wine tasting and we look for whales. And I do another one called Wings and Wine, which is a little different. We go down the valley and stop at the aforementioned wetlands and do wine tasting and go to a raptor center. And so that's what's coming up this time of year. A lot of cool weather, outdoor walks and history and ghosts.
Fabulous. That sounds great. So if anyone listening
And what
wants,
about you?
yeah, if anyone listening wants to share their destination or a place that they love to go, you can reach out to me. It's the-travelcollective.com. And I also do a lot of autumn tours out to New England, which is under yourphototravelguide.com. So thanks everyone again for a great night, and leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and thank you, Darcie and Darla, for all the great tips. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you for having me.